not being afraid to lose money for a bigger gain, investing in yourself, and being able to see the bigger picture. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but going back to those conversations around those first studios, he saw the bigger picture. He was like, I'm going to get a studio for right now. Hey, this is what we could do. This is what we can afford. We're rocking with it. It's the end of my budget. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build from here. And then going into that studio where he's at now is like $250 million invested into that studio, if not more at this point.
It was a USA base.
Yeah, it was a U.S. military base. So for him to have, he was like, I went to that gate and I didn't know, but he's like, I had to have a bigger vision. All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the More Than a Side Hustle podcast, where we help 9-to-5s create more impact, income, and influence outside their jobs. And today is no different. My name is Anthony Hartzog.
And I am Janoka, putting your full government out there. I am
already
Janoka. Thank you guys for coming back for another episode. As he said, every single Tuesday we are here. I was about to say live as if we were a radio station, but we are here every Tuesday dropping so you can listen to us, stream us. Make sure you're following and all of the above.
Yes. And if you are brand new here, we appreciate it. Our goal is to help you think about ways to make an impact outside your jobs. If you have a job, or even if you're an entrepreneur, create more options for yourself. So today's topic, what are we talking about today?
Well, it is after Thanksgiving, so hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. What are we talking about? Well, we're going to talk about the Tyler Perry documentary that we watched on Amazon Prime. But before we get into that, we were having this conversation.
And don't go anywhere, because we're going to talk about 10 gems that we got from that we got from that documentary that could apply to your life, that could apply to your 9-to-5,
just
your
lessons,
job, or your business, or whatever you're doing to get through that hustle. So we definitely going to break down a lot of the gems, save you guys about 2 hours of time. We still recommend you go watch it anyway, because it was extremely motivating, and hopefully you guys get some motivation, and not just motivation from this episode, but it also get some what?
You're talking really fast.
Because I'm excited. Not just motivation. I hope you guys take some actionable steps so that you could impact your life as well.
And I'm only mindful of it because people say that to both of us all the time. And I'm like, yeah, we got to slow down sometimes. But with Thanksgiving just passing, we were having a discussion of like, what is the meal or things you look forward to the most for Thanksgiving? And what would your answer be? I know my answer automatically is ham.
So you wait all year to eat some ham that you could eat every day?
On Sundays, yeah. You can eat any meal every day, let's be clear.
So since I'm big into the health space, I'm not gonna eat everything that I want every single day.
Okay, you're not big in the health space your entire life. What have you looked forward to the most for Thanksgiving generally when it comes to foods?
I don't really concern myself with the food. I concern myself with giving thanks. That's what I like to do. I like to be around family, I like to be around friends, I like to give thanks. The food is just a byproduct of us just coming together, showing each other love. I know in the Black community, we always talk about food and what we can't wait to eat and what we can't wait to have, but that's not my thing. I'm not really big into food.
Back in the day, when you used to be home going to your mother, what were you excited about her cooking for Thanksgiving, Anthony?
I would say if something were to float my boat.
If something were to float my boat, are you shitting me?
If something were to float my boat in regards to food, it might be like baked mac and cheese, because that's something that you got to put your time and energy into, and a lot of people don't do it right.
It's not might. That is what you like.
Okay.
I'm like,
my wife is trying to tell me what I like because she cooks it all the time.
No, I absolutely don't. But
exactly.
The point is, I know what you like. So traditional, I find that, I guess it depends on how you're born and raised. So my family's from Panama, really closer to more Caribbean descent than anything. However, we celebrate Thanksgiving. We live in America, so we celebrate. But I find that our foods are a bit different from most Americans and what they're looking forward to. So people talk about sweet potato, people talk about collard greens, people talk about those type of things. And growing up, that's not something that was ever made for Thanksgiving or in general, really, in my household. So what I look forward to the most is obviously time with family and friends, games, movies, all that good stuff. But the food I'm looking forward to is ham. Now that I've gotten a bit older, mac and cheese, and maybe fried chicken. I really don't have a lot, but there is stuff I look forward to in general. Okay. You're a sweets guy. You look forward to that as well?
No one's really making sweets.
What?
Sweet potato?
You tell me. The sweet potato or apple pie, but people make sweets for Thanksgiving.
I guess.
Now you guess.
That's not the biggest thing. That's not the biggest driver of Thanksgiving. Somebody bring a sweet potato pie. It's like, okay, great.
It depends. Like my aunt made banging cheesecake, so I look forward to that sometimes.
Oh, we had that cheesecake in Miami, Florida, and they were based in Atlanta. Remember when we went to the Mastermind?
Oh yeah. What type of cheesecake was that? Oh, that was real good. But that wasn't for Thanksgiving, but that was real good. So sweets can be a driver for Thanksgiving for some people. But either way, hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving with family and friends only and not thinking about the food.
That's what we started the conversation with. But if you guys are still here after that food conversation, we do got something.
And we didn't make you hungry.
And we didn't make you hungry.
And your leftovers are done.
Your leftovers should be done. When is a proper time
That's another question.
To disperse of your leftovers?
Child, you ask my mother, once you freeze it, it can last a lot longer.
So what's the timeline where after Thanksgiving, you can eat, you need to stop eating your leftovers?
Some people say Saturday, Sunday max.
Saturday, Sunday of that same week?
Yeah, absolutely. Of the same week. So Thanksgiving is Thursday. You got Black Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So by Monday, by the time this episode released, you guys need to make sure you're
not eating the leftovers.
Not eating any more leftovers because that is the cutoff rule.
That's what they say.
So
but
Sunday night, whatever leftovers you got, you better throw it away. So by the time you listen to our voices, you need to. If you are sitting there and last night, if the episode drops on Tuesday and Monday night you ate leftovers, you are doing something disgustingly horrible.
Not you driving to work, listen to us having your lunch in your package or your leftovers.
You listen to us during your lunch break and you literally sitting there eating your leftovers. Like, damn, I messed up here.
Yeah, that's close to a week later. I mean, do what fits you, but that's the rule that I've been seeing. I think Saturday, Sunday max. But we want to get into the documentary of Tyler Perry and talk about the lessons and things that we've learned from A Billionaire. Okay, let's be clear. He's a billionaire. The name of the documentary was Maxine's Baby, Tyler Perry's Story, something like that. Maxine is his mother's name. So where do you want to start with it?
So number one, this was on Amazon?
Amazon Prime.
And I don't think I've ever watched a movie on Amazon.
We watched that show, The Boys or something on Amazon.
The Boys on Amazon. But I've never watched really a show on Amazon. So what made you say, let's watch this on Amazon?
Oh, I get all of my ideas of shows and movies through Twitter. I saw somebody mention it, and I saw that's where it was at. That's it.
But yeah, highly recommend it. Do you have to have Prime to watch it, I guess?
Yeah.
And this is a movie that probably could have came out in the movie theaters as well. It was about 2 hours, and it kept us engaged the entire time. So I'm sure he got an extremely big bag from this movie, but it had a lot of gems. And so where do you want to start at? So I enjoy everybody knows the Tyler Perry story to some degree. He's a billionaire, and he's done a ton of things. He's done acting, he's done movies, he's a philanthropist. He has a movie studio, one of the largest movie studios in Atlanta, built by a black man. So he's done a ton of different things, but I learned a lot about him. And I think the first thing we want to start with is the beginning of his journey. So it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah, so I didn't know this part about him at all, that he went through a hard childhood. They didn't really go into detail. He basically said vaguely some type of assault, but he didn't really say, did he say sexual assault? I feel like he did, but he didn't really say anything about that. But his father was very abusive towards him. Yep. To the point that he was running away, he was having marks on his back, et cetera, et cetera. That was something that he did discuss, which I had no idea about. So he did not have, and he has 2 older sisters, which he didn't talk much about them either, to be honest. So he did not have a fun childhood. But we say is not how you start, it's how you finish, based on where he is now. Obviously, he used that pain that he experienced as a child and has turned it into a $1 billion product, essentially.
Yeah, and that was one of the earlier gems of the movie, because a lot of us have gone through something, whether it was trauma or abuse or just not getting our way in life, and we kind of use that to stop us or create an excuse around what we should be doing because we can't do it because we're so focused on what happened. But in his early childhood, he used that as a mechanism for him to escape. So all of his creative thoughts came from him escaping that childhood. So you may see, and it kind of makes me think about, in a way, like Michael Jackson. And I say that because
the way he acted out,
the way he acted was him expressing his childlike thoughts. Like, his escape was that Never Neverland, but Tyler Perry used that to create characters. So every single character that he created in his life came from his childhood. So instead of us using that pain as a crutch, he used it as a way to create characters that kind of made his mother laugh, that made his mother's girlfriends laugh, that made family members laugh, where it was like, this guy actually has something. So using that childhood to fuel his future.
And we do understand that doesn't happen for a lot of people, right? When it comes to childhood, that could go a whole different way. People are in therapy and all those type of things. That's the saying that he's not, but he had, like he said, used that to help him and be creative in a way. And that, that was part of his therapy, like to the point that he said that he would leave the house and be like in this box in the back of his home just to get away from his father. So that was one thing that was very powerful, because you don't always see it that way, right? Most of the times we hear more stories of it going down the other way. So that's the childhood they have. That's probably why this happened. That's usually what we hear. So it was positive and powerful in that. But the other thing was that another point that we were saying, number 2, is forgiveness is powerful. So along the same lines of this father that was very, very abusive towards him, he's forgiven him. He said in his 20s or 30s, I think he said, I forgave him in my 20s and 30s. He knew as a person, he's like, I knew that, a father shouldn't have that much hate towards a child, but I forgave him. I take care of him. I make sure he has a home. I make sure he has, a car, those type of things. But I was able to move forward. When he shows, like, some times when he was getting some smaller studios, it's his mother and his father right there along the way, which is huge, because I'd be like,
I try to resonate with that, like the forgiveness thing, but it's so difficult sometimes when you don't really understand the full picture. So he had to go and dive into his family to understand why they were like this. Now, how many of us are going to dive into our family tree? Because we got some pretty messed up families as well. People listening to this, you might be like, damn, I went through some stuff too. But how many of us got messed up families where, growing up, on the last episode, we talked about the millennial generation, but growing up in the 80s and 90s and your parents or grandparents are doing drugs or crack, and that's what they grew up in. And then now you're coming in as a late 80s as a product of this environment and recognizing that, okay, my family didn't have it the way that I have it growing up today, or my kids will have it. So how do I recognize that? But then also forgive the people who actually put me through that. It's kind of difficult, but he was able to harness that forgiveness into using it as a shining light to do his next thing.
And just to understand as well, because he went deeper, like this is the father that beat him so bad, and he went deeper to know, like, okay, it was his father and his siblings. They were found like on a ditch, and they were raised by a 14-year-old that used to hang them on a tree and beat them. So he's like, once I had that understanding, not to say it makes it okay, this is how my father thought was the way to raise me, So that changed it for him, and I guess helped him to forgive him. And he went on to say that, his father never apologized, but he's just like, for me, I can't hold on to that. He's like, people go on in life and they're doing their thing, and you're just there upset. So he had to let that go. So
number 3, he doesn't expect anything from anybody else, anything else that he isn't going to do himself. So he showed a lot of like behind the scenes and the camera work and the action work and the lighting, and you see him moving and stuff. He's like, yo, I'm showing you guys this because I'm willing to do it. He's like, if there's a paper on the floor, I'm going to pick it up. If you need help lifting the box, I'm going to do it as well. So I'm not going to tell you to do something that I'm not going to do myself. And I think we've done this multiple times in our business. So even with our cleaning business, we've been the one to answer phones. We've been the one to take angry customers. We've been the one to communicate with cleaners. We've been the one to do all of that. And then even not as far as doing actual cleaning, but we've done almost every role in our business so far so that we could prove out that this model can work. This can be done. So that no one can say, oh, you guys are above it. No, we've done it. We've proven that it works. And we could go back and do it if we ever needed to again.
Right. I just, with that part of him not expecting from others what he won't do, just kind of shows just the multiple hats that he wears and how much of a genius he is. Because granted, I've never been on a movie set or a TV set, but we've seen behind the scenes and we see how chaotic it can be, right? So for him to be able to wear all those hats and know how to play all those things and then be an actor, then be a writer, then a producer, then knowing the camera needs to come in on the left versus the right, etc. That's a genius, right? And that is someone, like he said, I'm not going to ask you to do it if I don't know how to do it. So this is what I expect. I expect excellence from you because this is what I'm giving. And he said that. He's like, no one's going to outwork me. And it's proven by where he's at. So when he said that he doesn't expect anything from anybody else, that he isn't going to do himself, it just reminded me of dating.
Why? Because
it goes into kind of that Twitter talk of females want all this stuff, like a car, this, that, and the other, but do you have it? Or are you able to provide that, basically, in regards to dating?
You want a six-figure
guy,
N-word,
but do you have six figures?
Do you have six figures?
You want somebody driving this, but do you have that? That type of conversation. So, it scared me. I thought the camera had blinked. That's what it reminded me of when he said that. But the next thing was number 4, the power of faith. Definitely, he is a believer of God, and he kept it at his forefront throughout. Throughout. I think he said in those times that he's kind of running away from his father, in those times he was a teenager and eventually joined the church to the point that he wanted to be a pastor and all these things. Like he was training to become a pastor and everything like that. But even throughout, he always mentions, the Bible. And when he was building his studio, he has like the Bible buried under it, the foundation of it, et cetera, et cetera. So he kept God at his forefront. He's definitely a believer, and the power of faith he says, is part of what got him where he is.
Yeah, we talked about that when we were trying to get out of debt and
paying tithes, yeah,
and paying our tithes to the church. Now, some people may say that doesn't make sense if you're trying to pay off debt. Why would you keep donating to the church? Use that money to pay off your debt faster. But it always comes full circle when you don't recognize it or you don't expect it or you're not even asking for it. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a way of just bringing that thing back around.
And it's his money anyway. So
yeah, we're only stewards of it. And that's Tyler Perry said that all the time. He's like, we're stewards of the gifts that God has given us. And it's like, are we being good stewards of that gift? And not to go all churchy on y'all, but we were just in church this past Sunday. And
I missed some of the word because I wanted.
Y'all mind if I go through that word right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So God gave 3 people, well, it wasn't God, one of his stewards. He gave 3 stewards gifts. And one steward had 5 gifts, one steward had 3 gifts, and one steward had 1 gift.
You mean he gave each of them one, but then
No.
Okay.
Let me tell the story.
Oh, okay.
He gave 5, 3, 1. He gave 3 people. One person had 5 gifts, one person had 3 gifts, and one person had 1 gift.
Okay.
1 extra gift outside of himself. So he said, "Go out and do what you will with this gift." So essentially, the king comes back. And he said, "What have you done with the gifts I gave you?" And the guy who had 5 gifts, he said, "Oh, I have 10 now. Here you go. I give everything to you." The guy who had 3 gifts, he said, "I have 6 now. Here you go. I give everything to you." The guy who had 1 gift, he said, "I took that gift and buried it, and I here you go. I got 1 gift." Mm-hmm. He's like, "I'm not giving you any more gifts because you were selfish with the one that I gave you. You didn't go out and be fruitful and multiply the gift. So why would I give you any more?" And it goes to the point of sometimes we hoard the gifts that we're given because we're so afraid to lose them versus being able to be fruitful and multiply what we're given because there are other people who may need that gift. So Tyler Perry's like, I'm going out, I'm giving everything I got because I have these gifts that God has given me, and I need to take action on these things or he will take them from me. Mm-hmm. So yeah. That was a gem in church.
Yeah.
That was a gem in church.
That is exactly what he's saying.
And she didn't get that because Alani was wilding out and she had to walk. You ever go to church with a toddler?
Yeah. This is why they have the rooms. This is why they don't want you there. But we go to a Catholic church and they don't got rooms. Everybody's in the same area.
Catholic church don't play. We all going to be one. We all going to have fun with these kids. And well, not in that way, but we're going to have these kids in this room and they're going to be yelling. And you walk out when you want to walk out.
Exactly.
So moral of that story is being fruitful with your gifts. Don't hoard it because God will take it from you.
Okay. And the 5th one we had was don't worry about being underestimated. Kind of just keep your head down and keep it going. Now, they obviously touched on critics. It may have been some of you guys when you saw Medea. They're like another black man dressing up as a woman. They mentioned the Nutty Professor. They mentioned Big Mama.
Eddie Murphy and Martin, some of the greats.
Yeah, but he was like, I don't care. My audience is telling me what they want to hear and see. My audience is letting me know that they like this character. So I don't care about the critics. And that's sometimes very hard for people because it's hard to keep the outside noise out, right? But people like Spike Lee, everybody was just coming at him, just not treating him as seriously because of the Medea character. And, you know, he kind of spoke on it. At one point, it wasn't supposed to be him, but somebody kind of fell out for a day and he hopped in and the audience loved it. So he just kept with it, but not worrying about what others are saying and knowing that he had this gift, knowing that his audience was reacting and just going with it. I mean, I remember seeing him years ago in Harlem when it was a Medea tour. I didn't really know who he was, but my uncle was like, we're taking you to go see it. And I think it was great. I think it was wonderful.
Did Medea come out before Martin? Before Big Mama's House?
No, couldn't have.
Did Medea come out before Nutty Professor?
No, Nutty Professor, we were like, before Nutty Professor, we were like kids.
I'm curious, and I'm asking that because I'm curious because there's always this stereotype that black men have to dress up afterward. It's like a Hollywood thing. They say people say it's a ritual that black men have to dress up as women in order to succeed, to become successful in Hollywood. Now, is that because we find that
The movie was.
The movies, or we find that those characters are funnier when played by a man dressed as a woman? Or do we find that, like, did Martin have to be Big Mama in order to get that level of success?
Medea came out in like 2005, they were saying.
So did Eddie Murphy have to dress up in a dress in Nutty Professor to get that level of success? No, he was already a famous comedian before that. Martin was already famous, but did that take them to the next level?
I don't think Big Mama House took Martin to the next level.
Sinead.
But Nutty Professor is 1996. Yeah, I'm like, no way it was the same.
So he had Sinead, and that's
he was
the
a
thing.
woman
Was
there
like,
too.
all right, but I think
Forgot about that.
they've all had the same, not the same exact, but they've all had a similar
Thing
where they've created characters within their own show where they controlled, and now it's like you're seeing multifaceted comedians or actors doing these different characters, and it's like now I control. Oh, Sinead can have a character or an episode, or Medea can have an episode. Or even if you go back to Tyler Perry and all his characters in his shows, even each piece that he had, they all became their own characters. They've all had their own shows or different spinoffs and things like that. And even with Eddie Murphy did the same thing. He had Nutty Professor, he had Meet the Clumps. Like they've taken these characters and they've turned them to their own spin-offs based on their acting abilities. So I think it's absolutely amazing what they've been able to do. But I know sometimes it's hard seeing a black man in a dress. I'm not even gonna lie. It's kind of like I don't want to see another black man in a dress. But I do recognize that there is a level of humility, but there's a level of comedic genius of a person that can pull that off. I dress up in a dress, it shit won't be funny. Like, it won't be funny. It's like, what the hell are you doing?
What?
But there's a level of...
what the hell are you doing?
There's a level of comedic genius that
I can't see.
a person has...
Or Dave Chappelle dressed up in it?
Dave Chappelle, hell no.
Oh, no. Well, he had the show. What was Dave Chappelle's show he had on VH1 or whatever years ago? Dave Chappelle. Oh,
Dave
did he
Chappelle
never
show.
dress up as a woman on there?
Not that I remember.
Okay, I don't have no memory. I just asking.
He barely wanted to give up rights to his shows. I'm doubt he did that. But
Okay.
But there's a level of humility of a man, dressing up in a dress or garment, whatever it is. I can't say I will do that, but I understand. You own the character. It's taking your brand to the next level. But then I see the other side of it. It's like, all right, we got another black man that's being dehumanized by wearing a dress. So I see both sides of that spectrum. Like you said, he knows his characters. He knows his people and what they want.
Yeah. I don't disagree. The number 6 we have is honoring the people that came before you. So what we mean by that, and even just like his mother, he really spoke about his mother a lot, having an understanding for why she stayed in the situation that she did based on, he's like, she's at home raising kids. Things were just different back then. You just don't leave a man, then what you going to do with 3 kids? You're not working, all those things. So he really, really honored his mother. But I say just honoring the people before you, because when he opened up his studio, he named some of the big actors and actresses that are in the field, obviously, his sound stages. So Will Smith, Denzel Washington, Oprah Winfrey, Halle Berry. Yeah, so he named some of those people because he knows, that they came before him. They helped him to be where he is, or even to think about doing something like this. And who was the one that was crying? The older guy at the event.
Sidney Poitier.
Oh, Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier was just saying, like, I'm crying because I remember being in the studio and I was the only black man. And now another black man is owning a studio, which is bigger than I ever thought of. So he does honor the people around him or that came before him. And I think that that's necessary because everyone doesn't do that. They're like, well, I did my own thing. Like, I worked to get here, which is true. Don't get me wrong. But there are people that allow you to maybe even have an inch more than you might have had before.
And next one is ownership. So along those same lines, obviously he has his studio. But some of the things they spoke about was him. One of the reasons why he created those characters was to maintain ownership. So he had, obviously he has Tyler Perry Studios now, and everything that's created in there under Tyler Perry is his. He owns it.
It's crazy.
But he talked about the power of, when he first started in the, you got this as the next one.
It can be kind of be together, but
so this one,
separate.
When he first started, he maintained control of everything. They never seen it. And this also reminded me of the Michael Jordan movie when his mom had asked for royalties for the shoe.
They're like,
and she's like, nobody does that. We've never given it out to anyone. And she's like, why not now?
Yeah.
Crickets. And if you think about how crazy that is, Michael Jordan wasn't even in the league yet. And I know it's about Tyler Perry. If you think of how crazy that is, Michael Jordan wasn't in the league yet. And for his mother to ask for royalty for a sneaker that wasn't released yet, where Michael Jordan had
she believed
no
in her
experience,
son.
he had no backing, he had no understanding. He wasn't Magic Johnson. He wasn't Larry Bird. He wasn't whoever the third person. Michael Jordan. It was Larry and Magic. He wasn't any of them. And she asked for royalties for a shoe, which they've never done before. So maintaining that ownership is key.
So along the lines of maintaining that ownership, he spoke about, I guess when you're doing a TV show, because eventually he did movies and then went on to TV shows, you do a pitch, I think he said like 10 episodes, and then the network decides to take up 90 episodes, so 100 or something like that. And the way that he did, I don't remember exactly logistically, it was something new that they had never did it before, that he made sure that they kind of took 100 right away. But he paid for the 10 of them out of his own money, which brings us to the next point of he wasn't afraid to lose money for a bigger gain. He was like, when he was paying for these 10 episodes, he was like, it was about probably all the money I had at that time. But I knew that it was going to pay off with me just paying for these 10 episodes. And he found TBS, I think he said, that went on to pay for the other 90, which was more than he needed in return. Same thing with him building the studios. He did this big one in Atlanta was like the third or fourth one he had, but originally the other ones he paid for with his own money as well. So he has been big on, no, this is all mine. Like, I'm keeping this all in-house. I don't know. I don't think he spoke on what made him think that way, but if you can, as the artists try to keep their own royalties and all this type of stuff, if you can keep things with yourself or ownership, your bag grows more, as you can see with him being a billionaire. So that was another lesson, like not being afraid to lose money for a bigger gain, which I feel like we have these conversations a lot because we think about it with students. Not being afraid to put more money into your business so that you can see it grow in a different way. But we do understand sometimes starting out in entrepreneurship and business, it's hard to see that because you just are focused on holding the money. So he wasn't afraid to lose it, and that has got him very far, essentially.
So along those same lines of not being afraid to lose money for a bigger gain, investing in yourself and being able to see the bigger picture. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but going back to those conversations around those first studios, he saw the bigger picture. He was like, I'm going to get a studio for right now. Hey, this is what we could do. This is what we afford. We're rocking with it. It's the end of my budget. This is what we're going to do. We're going to build from here. And then going into that studio where he's at now is like $250 million invested into that studio, if not more at this point.
It was a USA base.
Yeah, it was a U.S. military base.
So
for him to have, he was, I went to that gate and I didn't know, but he's like, I had to have a bigger vision. And sometimes as business owners or 9-to-5ers, we can't see that bigger vision outside of what's in front of us because we're so tight with our resources, we're so tight with our knowledge, we're so tight with our information that we can't see beyond what's in front of us. So when he walked to the gates of that base and it had a Bible verse on it,
he said it was one of his favorite or something he read a lot.
yeah, and he was like, I read that all the time, and it had it on the door of the gates of the base. I knew this was a sign from God for me to act on this vision. So we got to have visions that are bigger than ourselves, and I think it's a struggle sometimes. Like we're focused on the day-to-day. We're focused on the grind. And that's another thing he said. He's like, I'm always focused on the grind. This goes to the next one as well. He's like, I'm always focused on today, but I'm never going to stop hustling. He's like, I'm going to plan. I'm going to execute. I'm thinking about today, but I'm living in the moment, but I'm also thinking about tomorrow.
Yeah. And he spoke about that with, I don't know if you guys knew, but he got a son.
I didn't know he had kids.
Tony and my mother was like, huh?
Like, who's this little boy
I recently
running around?
learned that, though. I don't know how I learned it, but...
He's trying to keep him out the spotlight.
Yeah, he doesn't show his face
blanket.
on there. Like blanket. He doesn't show his face on there, but yeah, like you said, he doesn't stop hustling. As you can see, and he speaks about, even in the documentary, there's a part where he's like trying to calm himself down of like, okay, be in the moment, be in the moment. You're excited, be in the moment. It's okay, stay here, which he's actually saying to himself, which I understand that because we talk about that as well. Like for somebody like him, how do you stop? How do you turn it off? How do you say, okay, this is enough? Or I'm not doing another movie this year, or I'm staying still in this capacity. So I can only imagine, because you're thinking bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't stop. I don't know how one of that capacity can stop, to be honest. Yeah, so he just doesn't stop hustling. He gets it done, plan, and executes. And sometimes we have those conversations when we see people like, I don't want to be like that. I don't know if I want that. Like, yeah, we all want more money, but are you willing to really put in the work that requires that, right? When we started off our cleaning business, we had a friend or somebody we met in the business that started as well, and she was like killing it. She had went off. We're like, damn, we're behind. How do we get to that? We had a conversation with her about all that she was going through. We're like, oh yeah, no, that's not.
It's
what
a
we
marathon,
want.
not a sprint.
Yeah, that's not what we want. This don't sound fun to us. So yeah, but he's big on getting it done. He plans it. He executes quickly.
Definitely does. Another thing along those same lines with the whole hustling thing, he had mentioned that when his mother had passed, he said, if I had nothing else going on, I didn't have a movie, I didn't have a contract, I didn't have these new builds happening, I would have stopped. He said that would have been the end of Tyler Perry. That would have been it. So when you're thinking about your ability to keep moving, staying in motion is super important, especially when you have that momentum. Like you got the momentum, you gotta let that train go, because once that train stops, you don't know if it's gonna pick back up again. So keep that train going, keep the momentum, especially if you got something going. So like our podcast is like, yo, we gotta keep this thing going. We had 100 episodes. Can we do 200? Let's talk about what the new year looks like. Let's talk about. Why are you making a face?
I said, you said, can we do 200? I made a face. Ooh, child, it'd be a lot to be here, I'm telling you.
We be struggling. We be struggling, but we here, y'all. We here.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Thinking about others, man. Thinking about others. COVID and making you get money in building sets.
That's my little note. So what happened was during COVID, he built other sets on his trailer. What is it called? He had other trailers there where during COVID, he said, I had 300 plus employees and they need to feed their family. So we're going to work. So he put things in place to make sure everybody's wearing a mask, they're getting tested, blah, 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 blah. So he's constantly thinking about others because he's like, we're going to work, we're going to move forward because you guys got to pay the bills. Now, is that a gain for him as well? Absolutely. But I don't got to do that because I have other things. I have other things happening.
I can't support 300 plus employees and they're not working. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So he built sets on his park, if you will. Do they have tours? I wonder.
They do.
Oh, they do. I need to do a tour. Build sets on there and made a whole thing of people being able to work and feed their family during COVID. So
he made a camp.
Thinking about a camp, yeah.
They couldn't leave. It's kind of like the NBA, the bubble. The bubble did this. The NBA did the same exact thing. If you think about it.
But he was saying people were on him about it. But we want to watch our basketball though.
Yeah, the NBA did the same exact thing when they built this bubble and nobody could come on, nobody could leave. All the bills were made here, and he did the same thing. He did the same model that the NBA did, or he might have done it before. I don't know, but that was the thing. Is like, who is going to be during that pandemic? Think about how scary it was to leave your house. But it's like, all right, I'm building this for you guys, and if you want to make money, you come in here and work. And if you don't want to make money, you do your own thing. A lot of us gonna sit at home like, yeah, I'm scared. I don't want to make that. I don't want to make that move. I'm gonna wait for the checks to come in. But he's like, yo, if you want to work, I'm here. I'm gonna open it. I'm putting my own money up. I'm putting my people that are coming after me. All you gotta do is show up and do your job. And are you willing to do that? Are you willing to sacrifice that? So that was what I took away from that part. Are you willing to sacrifice for the greater good of yourself and your family? A lot of us was that sitting at home chilling.
You talking about who you talking about?
Everybody. I was at home.
I worked from home since the beginning, so there was no change for me at all. But then we had a bonus. We spoke about 10 things that we found interesting or informative from the documentary. But the bonus one was focus on your brand.
Is that 11 or is that 10?
That's number 11.
Okay. We gave you a bonus number 11. Okay, cool.
What's happening?
It says number 10. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, because I added one in the middle. You got to tell everybody what's happening?
Listen, they family.
I added one in the middle after I had numbered it. So,
okay, I got you.
Jesus Christ. So it's a bonus number 11 to clarify, focusing on your brand. And that's a really big deal, specifically for us and for many people in this space. Your brand, a lot of us, our brand is our face and how we're involved in what we do, how we show up. Our brand is Instagram, the Heartrimony is the podcast, is Clean and Business University, all these things. Focusing on your brand and growing it. For example, Tyler Perry isn't as big without Medea. Medea became part of his brand. Showing what would you want to call it? Like, things that most Black people can relate to became part of his brand. Like, you just know, like, yeah, I have an aunt that would say that. I have a cousin that would act jokes. Like this. Like, that became part of his brand. And we feel like if he didn't focus on his brand and letting us know, standing out from his brand, he wouldn't be as big as he is, right? As soon as you hear that voice, or what was it she used to say? Her. That's a brand thing. Like, those type of things. As soon as you saw that wig being curled from the back, a tall, that's a brand thing. So him focusing on his brand made him who he is today.
And don't change who you are. If that's what you do and that's what people know you for and you enjoy doing it and you also know that's what your customers want, stick to that. We say it all the time, is that our viewers, you guys, show us what you want. Like, every episode that we do, we'll see a spike based over certain topics. We'll see a lower amount based on certain topics. We'll see you guys like more on Instagram based on certain things. And you have to learn how to pivot. And sometimes you're just like, I want to do my own thing, whether it's part of my brand, whether my audience likes it or not, I'm gonna do my own thing. Miss Coughing over here. So
I get 5 calls.
But yeah, this was I think that movie is highly recommended. Yeah. Hopefully you guys.
First of all, Tony don't ever watch TV, so if he's recommending it, then you should go watch it.
Hopefully you guys took away some game from it. Hopefully you guys more than took away some game, took away some actionable items, actionable steps, so that you can make an impact on your actionable life.
Okay.
Just be there.
But thank you so much for watching and listening. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing, letting people know what we're doing. If you are listening, tell us, go ahead and leave.
If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment and tell us what's your favorite thing about, what was your favorite highlight that we highlighted on this show from his joint,
from his documentary. That's it for us. Have a good one.
Later, guys. See you guys next week.
Bye.